system state to disk just to make sure.
Now, for those that are asking, what's included in a system state, the backup? What's in there?
It's Active Directory, it's the sysvol contents, things like that. User accounts, security groups, all that stuff. The schema, all that's backed up. So, and also in migration mode for small business server, you have a certain timeline you have to do it in. You have to do it in 30 days. If you don't do it in 30 days, your server starts shutting down every hour as an incentive to get it done.
As an incentive to get it done.
Yeah, because you can't have two small business servers on the same network.
So it's more like,
Yeah. So the reason for the migration, installing in migration mode, it puts it in that 30-day grace period, basically. Now, with this migration, since it's going straight to server 08, you don't have that time limit. And you don't have to install it in any kind of migration mode. So it's much easier to do. Much easier, I think. Now, the next steps I'm going to have, I'm not going to go over them. I'm actually going to talk about them next time. And it's the last step I have is you've got to install Exchange onto the new server and then migrate Exchange over. Now, along with that is moving the SSL certificate, which we'll go over. And not in this article, but you're going to have to do it, is move over the antivirus. If it's a business network, hopefully you have some kind of corporate antivirus solution. In my case, it's Trend Micro. So Trend Micro is pretty easy, but I don't want to install Trend Micro until Exchange is installed, because when I install Trend Micro, it detects Exchange and installs more components for the Exchange scanning. But Trend Micro does make it easy to migrate. All I've got to do is install the Trend Micro on the new server, go to the old server, select the clients, and say move to the server. The clients won't notice a thing.
Oh, sweet.
Pretty easy. Now, in this article, it's got step 10, which is way at the back end, to migrate shared user data. I already did that. I did it a lot sooner. It can be done before. You could do it in this way. I did it earlier just because I felt like it. Actually, I did it earlier because their hard drives were almost full. One of the reasons they're getting the server, the hard drives on the server are almost full.
As Matt was saying,
it was doing so many things.
Okay.
It was locking up. So the job of one server now is being done by 3 servers.
Sweet, man. So yeah, because right now the end result that you have, and again, you stated that you're going to a change in that, migrating that in our next show, but they don't have a file server. They don't have a server that hosts the application that they use. Now they have this server here with Exchange.
Yeah. So this server will be the domain controller and Exchange server. And that's all that's going to do. The other ones, file server, print server. It's hosting some licensed servers, QuickBooks server. They got their application server, which hosts a few applications. But yeah, their server would lock up from time to time. And, everybody's locked out. The whole company until you reboot the server. It's just overworked.
Yep, and what Matt is describing here, just in a bigger environment, you'll see that they will designate different roles from different servers. We got a group of file servers here. That's all you do. Got some application servers, web servers. I mean, it can get kind of complex in the design of the network. The bigger that you go.
And you know what? I'm thinking about right now, there was some other things, of course, that need to be done. If you have reservations for your printers, they're going to be fine because they'll get the new IP address, they'll get the new DNS server. Anything with a static IP, it's probably going to have the wrong DNS server in it after you move over DHCP and DNS. So any network scanners, network copiers that have static IPs, you're going to have to get in there and change the DNS server to the IP of the new server, because eventually the old server is going away. So we had to go in, and I found some of the scanning didn't work. Network scanners didn't work because they were pointing to the UNC path. So we had to edit the UNC path on some of the network scanners. We had to go in there and set the DNS server for the new server. Now, if you miss the DNS server and it's got a UNC path, if you just change the UNC path, it would continue working because the old server is still on the network and actually is a DNS server. But if you're pointing to, let's say, 1.1 for the DNS server and that goes away, it's not going to work anymore. So all the network scanners, network copiers, any static device that has settings, those need to be checked and corrected for the IP, for the DNS service. I found that out today when they called and none of the network scanners worked.
No, and that's a good point. And you know what Matt is describing here are things that you just pick up as you do this. I mean, I don't think about the scanning folders or their whole paths or the DNS that they're using or view the DHCP server that they're using. So all stuff that just comes. What's the phrase people say? Baptism by fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, some things are just not going to work. I mean, every change I'm doing, I don't want to make changes every day. I might do one step and then wait a day or two, then do another step. Because if you do all these steps back to back, you can have so many issues. It's going to seem like your migration was a complete failure.
Right. Then, well, you know, that also makes it a little bit easier for troubleshooting. If you are changing over to the DHCP scope, then you know that your problems, if they are any, are just limited to a certain series of, you know, it's related to DHCP. But if you start changing DHCP and DNS and shares and migrating data, I have a busy day.
You will.
A couple days.
Yeah. And I'm doing this pretty much by myself. I do have one guy. We went over and helped me do a few things, but I'm doing most of this remotely too.
Oh wow!
And that's the nice part, to be there. But yeah, so I did. The first thing, the application server we had to do on site, but all we did was move the applications, a couple applications, nothing else. So we let that go a few days and move QuickBooks and let that go and then move. So everything was done a day or two. Moved the files over this weekend. I didn't do anything else until yesterday, which was just promoting the 2008 server to a domain controller, which shouldn't affect anybody. And it didn't, so I didn't get any calls. So as I'm going, each step, I'm letting the kinks work out before I move on. So I think this weekend I'm going to do Exchange migration, or maybe tomorrow if I'm. See, because this Exchange migration shouldn't affect anybody. I can install Exchange, and it's going to create a connector between this Exchange server and the other Exchange server. Okay. So really, I can move over one or two mailboxes at a time, and it shouldn't affect them at all. They shouldn't even notice. And then once they're all moved over, then I can just get rid of it. There's some steps to get rid of the other server. I don't want to say just unplug it, but because then you have issues if you just unplug it. You got to actually gracefully get rid of it.
Right, and you actually have to remove Active Directory, or I think it was also this promo where you make it a non-domain controller, then it becomes a member server. Oh, well, no.
And see, with small business server, you can't do that.
I'm sorry. See, my mind's already somewhere else. Sorry.
Well, we'll see. We'll go over that. It's like the small business server is kind of unique. It's got some funny things that go on with it, but I still love it for small businesses. I hate it for migrations. But when I do a straight server, it's nice that you never have to worry about migration again, basically. I mean, before the small business server days, like server 2000, somebody wanted a new domain controller, no problem. You just join it to the domain, you make it a global catalog server, DNS server, Active Directory server, let everything replicate, move the shares, DC promo the old one out, and you're done. I mean, it was complete piece of cake. Small business server, completely different for migrations. But they only happen once in a while.
They only happen once in a while. It's true.
Per client.
unless and you make it like a habit of just doing massive migrations throughout your whole entire county.
Now, I've got a few clients that has small business server that are moving to a new small business server, but um, they're also buying all new computers at the same time, which makes it so much easier because I can set up the new server. I'm not going to do a migration if they're getting all new computers. I'm going to set up the new computers and the new server at my office. Everything's going to work right. Everything's going to be joined. Everything, all the user accounts set up. And all I got to do when I get over there is move over data shares and move over Exchange because we're not worried about saving profiles or getting new computers anyway. So I've got a few migrations coming up like that, all new computers and new servers.
So, and do you have a test lab environment where you can assign the static IP scheme?
Yeah, we'll set up a separate network at our office and do all this, everything. I'll get all their software. We'll install it. So when we bring it back, all I got to do is back up the, whatever the software has for backup data,
Sure.
back it up and then restore it to ours. It's going to be nice and easy.
Hopefully.
I say that.
Hopefully.
But there's no migration. Yeah. So you drop in the new computers. Yeah, we got to copy over data. We got to move Exchange. But that's not that bad. And that can be done.
And what you're doing is actually pretty neat. He's isolating this network to be on its own, doing most of the work under the hood. So when he arrives on site, like you said, he just copy data over or migrate any data that needs to get migrated or imported, and it's good to go.
Yeah, because I'll have the guys set up the new workstations while I'm copying data. So by the time I'm copying data, the servers, the workstations are set up, and they're ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So now we'll go in before. I'll have a guy go in maybe a day before. So clean up, make sure there's no data on the desktops, any local favorites. They may want to save that stuff.